in the chat room. Operation American Spring is happening at the federal government. It's also happening in Georgia at the state level. You can find your state. Go look on Facebook. AOS, Operation American Spring, your state name. Find that thing, jump on board, get involved in Operation American Spring. It is the people rise up and say, we're tired of this.
Okay.
1.5 million so far.
What's that?
Sounds good.
Yeah, 1.5 million expected so far.
And hey Chris, who's the leader of that? I mean, I know we're trying to reach out to Kessler. I'm sure he's aware of it. Mark Kessler is on the ball. He's got it going on. We're fixing to pick up his radio slot as near as I can tell. And I know we're rolling. We're BOT, so we're going to be there. But can you tell us more about that event, Operation American Spring? Who's leading that charge? And I know Overpass has picked it up, so.
Without looking at my computer, I could not. I believe there's at least 2 colonels, retired Army personnel who are going to be taking point, and some more people. It's massive. I'd have to look it up.
I mean, I understand, Chris. I know you're rolling DOG style, and we're rolling with you. You know, we're going to be the media at that event because that's what we do here at Zen in the Car TV, but zeninthecar.com. But
don't forget overpasses to impeach as well.
Oh yeah, overpasses. Listen, Earl is doing good things. Listen, she's done led up that event. Earl Shea she overpasses. It's Overpasses for America now on Facebook. So if you go to Overpasses America in Georgia, you're gonna find Earl Shea. I'm in that group. Overpasses is doing good things. CSF backs them up. So yeah, tip of the spear, baby. I appreciate it, Chris. And I would invite all of Eric Bell's listeners find Overpasses for America in your state. Wherever you're listening from, come to Operation American Spring. You can come to Operation American Spring in Washington, D.C. I will be there. You can find Operation American Spring at your state capital. I know we got BOG rolling in our state capital. I don't know if our caller knows about it in Texas, but Operation American Spring, man, this is a grassroots effort that is rising up and doing exactly what we're saying. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. I mean, hell, if you can get an Operation American Spring at your city council, go do that. Go represent Operation American Spring at your city council.
Right. This is why I was talking about taking back your towns, because you have a bunch of these old fogey real estate brokers and stuff that run city councils that want nothing to do with this. And they make up rules as they go along and kick you out of city council, and they close stuff down. I've seen it all over the country where, they're like little dictators, and you have to take back your city council so they can't pull this crap. And as far as running for state and federal stuff, that's great, and I understand, and there's an importance in it. But without the backing, you're not going to get it, because of the machine that's already in place. Make sure that you don't get there if you're not one of them. Now, granted, you have some that slip under the radar, but those are few and far in between, and they're very careful now because of people like Walter Jones and Ron Paul. They're very careful of not letting any more of those in. Rand Paul slipped in barely, and they tried to cheat. They couldn't cheat enough to stop it, okay? But you take back a city council, and that gives you a platform to run to take back the county, which then would give you the platform to run to take back the state. And I guarantee you, lead by example and take back a town, the rest of the state will look at you, and the next thing you know, they'll be telling you, we want you for governor, or we want you for attorneys general, or, well, you're not a lawyer, and we want you for whatever, okay? Now, constitutionally, if you're a lawyer, you shouldn't be holding public office in the first place, but that's for another show. But if you start out with, I'm serious, everything that's going on right now, the corporation of Washington, D.C., the whole country being a corporation, it's wrong, okay? But anyway, you take back city council, you get name recognition, and the next thing you know, other people are saying, hey, these people are right on the money. Why don't you help it? You know?
Can I try
look
your
at you,
for
what
a second?
you've done.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
quick. I need to go to a quick commercial real quick. And then, of course, Mr. Crumpton should be coming back. He messaged me on Facebook. He should be joining us by the time we get back. Just hold that thought for just about another minute real quick. All right, welcome back. And we were continuing. Larry was talking about the importance, of course, of local politics. And, of course, why would it be better if more efficiently to run for local office rather than, state and federal, and how folks like Rand Paul and Ron Paul and Walter Jones kind of slipped on the radar. Okay. So what were you saying, Mr. Larry? Or actually, Jason had a point, if I'm not mistaken.
On Ron Paul and what?
Well, you had a point to what he said of how, of course, it was how Ron Paul and Walter Jones, they kind of just slipped under the radar, and of course how Rand Paul just barely made it, which what Larry said. Which
my thing is, it's not hard. Listen, the Ron Paul thing is a source of contention in the Republican Party and still is, and I don't really understand why. You can look. I mean, the hard part is nobody's really paying attention, so it's really easy to dismiss the Ron Paul campaign if you were just looking at it from your little sphere of influence. But see, I was involved in that thing nationwide. I was involved in Ron Paul groups all the way across the country in different states. And the same thing happened in every state. What happened is you had the Republican establishment pushing back against the guy. The media wasn't covering him. Now, Ben Swann, I mean, I just throw it to Ben Swann because Ben Swann admitted, he says, somebody told me that Ron Paul wasn't getting equal coverage. This is Ben Swann's own words. He says, and he says, no, he is. And so what he did is, as an independent journalist minded, he looked into that and went, oh my goodness, these people are right. So if you go to benswann.com and you look back through his archives, and he's got the most current one that's, that's against, what he's saying is Democrat, and let's end bipartisanship. If you look up benswann.com, End Bipartisanship, you can see what happened all across the country. There was this huge pushback. Now, people who were involved in that saw it, and they're awake and mad as hell. I mean, isn't that right, Eric?
Yes.
So people who were paying attention and saw that know, and they're mad as hell. I mean, that's just the truth. But people who didn't see it don't know.
You got one of them sitting right here, man. I was totally pissed off to see him screw Ron Paul on the convention floor. But this is kind of a rhetorical question, and I don't want to sound cynical, but getting elected to a city office or even going as far as to say, what can Rand Paul or any other politician do with regards to Connecticut?
Yeah.
My point would be, like in Connecticut, it's too late for an office. It's too late for a race to address what's going on in Connecticut, where almost 300,000 people have been made felons overnight. There's no congressman, there's no senator that's going to undo the damage that's been done there. So we're in kind of a little bit of a gray area where it is going to be it's going to be left up to the people in Connecticut to defend their Second Amendment rights, and by extension, if they ask for support from other Americans in other states to support them in their cause, I would suggest to you that we have an obligation to do that, lest the problem arrive in the state of Georgia.
Okay, now I got to hear Sabrina's take on this. I know Sabrina's still there. Sabrina, give us some insight, a woman's insight on what we're talking about here.
Which Caitlin or the Rand Paul?
Listen, darling, you can address it however you want.
Well, I've spoken to you personally on the topic of Connecticut. You know, they've got a battle going on up there. But I guess what the main point of that is if it can happen there, you know, it can happen anywhere. And when we all stand together and say, you know, not only has Connecticut had enough, but nobody else around the entire country is going to stand for anything like that. You know, we really put our foot down and say what we're looking for. To say that no politician can come forward and undo the damage, you know, that's a big statement, but I don't think it's true. And I think a large part of that comes into play with raising people's awareness and raising their faith, you know. A lot of times we look at everything in the Constitution that we've lost, you know, everything that they've taken from us and everything that they've added a law to that kind of trumps something in the Constitution. We've compromised so many times that when you start listing those things, people are looking at that and they're saying, what the hell are we fighting for? You know, there's nothing left. You have people challenging faith on top of all that. So when you have this, I call it a tactic, you know, it's a tactic of controlling people, and a lot of people have fallen for it, and there are others who are becoming aware that they've fallen for it. And so one of my approaches is, you know, when we come together as a nation, whether it's in defense of Connecticut and how we choose our politicians, you know, it's all going to start with raising people's hope and faith again. You know, that's where we need to start. We need to put the faith back in place, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we got to believe in God or Jesus Christ or anything like that, but people need to know that there is something. Well, it helps, but they need to be aware that that's not their only option, that having faith in something is better than having faith in nothing. And when you have this whole atheist movement that's really demanding people to stop believing in anything, you know, that really hurts this nation, because a lot of people are easily swayed by that when they see all the damage that has been done, and when we tell them that nobody can change that, you know, it really is a kick to their balls, you know, and so
ouch. Yeah, really. You can say that again. You realize the founders of this country did base the Constitution on Christian principles, and no matter how much people hate God or hate Jesus or whatever, and the way you know, people try to argue and say, oh, they were deists and all this other stuff. And those are people that have really never, ever read anything that the founders wrote, because if they did, they'd find out that that's a bald-faced lie. But anyway, George Washington, for example, did say that a nation without Christian morals will fall. Okay? And,
does that mean that freedom of religion only applies to Christian morals? I mean, freedom of religion.
I didn't say. Wait a minute. Hold on. I didn't say that. I didn't, because when they talked about freedom of religion, come in and tell you, you have to be an Episcopalian, you have to be an Anglican, you have to be this or that. Okay.
How about the majority? How about the majority?
Well,
Can the majority
if you have
tell you that?
No, because then you're talking about democracy, and we don't have a democracy. We have a constitutional republic with God-given unalienable rights.
Good.
I think what we're talking about is an unconstitutional war of values. It's a little bit different.
Well, you know, they admit, if you read their writings, they admit there's been a war on the moral structure of this country, because that's one of the Marxist document playbook rules is you undermine the morals of a country, and there are other things involved too. But that's if you look at the communist
it's rather mixed.
How they go about.
Did Sabrina answer the Ron Paul question? I mean, Sabrina, did you follow Ron Paul in the last election? I'm curious.
Not very much. Not really. I kind of got turned on to him around the end of it all, but I never really followed those guys very much. Sorry to bust your bubble.
No, have you followed?
That's fine. You are where you're at, and well, what was your I guess beliefs? your philosophy before you found out about Ron Paul? Basically saying, did it change at all?
A little bit, because I have a brother who plagues me with the whole, if everybody voted for an independent, that whole thing. Before then, I argued